some of the software I'm not super familiar with. Anyhow, I thought I would start this so that we could talk a little bit about the current situation going on. And I am not a science communicator, so I'm not going to be able to talk about any of the science behind it. However, I can recommend some good science communicators, and that is probably the first thing that I'm going to do here. Okay. So this just came out yesterday, and this is from Kurzgesagt, and I will paste this in the window so that you can, or the chat window, so that you can check it out on your own time. So this is Kurzgesagt. I am familiar with some of the science communicators on here. Some of them are some of my favorite people. So you have to be careful about where you get your information from on YouTube. Alrighty. So there is the Kurzgesagt video, and I'm not going to play it all for you right now, but there's the link. And sorry you have to see my whole screen, but that was part of the technical difficulties. So they talk about a lot about just generally how a virus works and the particular things about this virus. And give you some recommendations. So this is one of the videos I do. They are sort of geared for adults. There's nothing particular adult in this, but might help you. It might not be great for early years learners. Okay. And the next science communicator I definitely would recommend are AsapScience. And so they have this whiteboard style, and they're talking more about kind of the future. So I will give you that link as well. Okay. And there are people always SciShow. So SciShow has, and I'll just link you to the channel here. And these are quick videos, but they are generally good about having their facts straight, which is what I am. So I'm looking for videos that are friendly to kids and also ones that have their facts straight. So there are 3 recommendations that I could give to you of some videos to look at for the current situation. Okay. Now, what else do I have? Okay, I'll get to that later. So, I'm definitely not used to talking to myself. And let me keep an eye on the chat here. So I'll try to do 2 things at once here. Okay. I've been working from home for about 6 years now. So there's this project, and I had another project. I've got my cats here. So I was a classroom teacher, and I have had to teach online in an emergency situation before. I definitely haven't done online teaching very long when I did, but I can talk a little bit about what those experiences were like, and also what kind of working from home does and how that affects things. First, we actually, my husband and I just moved to the United States. We've been living in Thailand, and I've been living in Asia for a total of 15 years. So I've been doing a lot of international school teaching. So a lot of my work, I think about sort of the kids in that situation. And one of the top kind of complaints that I get about my videos is how slowly the narration is. But the thing about how audio speeds work is that you can speed up a video. You can speed it up probably 25%, and it doesn't sound that funny. It might sound a little squeaky. And part of the audio engineering that I do actually lowers the pitch just a little bit. So if you speed it up 25%, it actually sounds just fine. Whereas when you slow down the speed of a video, it sounds silly. So I can give you an example of how that works. So, I can't because I don't have audio. But if you go to a video and you slow it down by 25%, it sounds pretty bad. Whereas if you speed it up 25%, it sounds pretty normal. And that is my cat. So, as far as that goes, when I first started working from home, you definitely it's a definite change in routine, right? And so things that you do at home and things that you would do at work definitely blend together because you're in the same place. One thing that is some people may be able to do is to try to set aside a separate workspace. Now, I understand not everybody may have the space to do that, but it's really helpful to just have a space where you can concentrate well. So when I first started working from home, my husband also works from home. So my husband's desk and my desk were about 5 feet apart from each other. And so when he'd have to do a conference call or something, it would be really distracting for me. So in the future, we have kind of more separate desks. We actually don't tend to chat a lot during the day when we're both working. So that kind of helps, even though, of course, we don't have any hard and fast rule about that. Another thing that happens is, especially when you're out of your daily routine, is that your sleep schedule can change. So you don't have to get up in the morning to go somewhere. And so you might end up staying up later, and you might end up then kind of having a strange schedule. Now, there's nothing wrong with going to sleep and waking up at any time that you feel comfortable. But I found that when I was awake all night and I wasn't awake during the day, it drained me a little bit. And I tend to be a night person. So trying to have a routine and thinking about how you're happiest is best. And also, people in the house may have kind of different routines. So if you've got young children at home, they may wake up around, 5 a.m. and be ready to go. Whereas, teens and adults may have kind of more nighttime schedules. Okay. So, it happens, and it's nothing that you would beat yourself up over necessarily because, you might be feeling cooped up, you might be feeling a little lonely, so having a little bit of freedom and a little bit of extra freedom might feel nice. So that's fine, but keep in mind that it happens, and you might want to think about how you're going to deal with that, what you want to do. There are points where I've gone to sleep at, 5, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and at that point, I'll actually just take a couple days and flip my schedule to be sort of normal again. Another thing about working at home is that you have to work on staying fit a little bit more. Now, if you don't live in a city, or if you don't live in a really dense place, you might be able to still go outside. It's just about assembling. It doesn't say you need to stay inside. So you can go for a walk. You can do things outside depending on the weather. But find something that you can do that will keep you fit. I actually, some people use a Wii or play Dance Dance Revolution or whatever kind of games like that. Anything that you like will really help you, because being sedentary, I had a step counter, and days that I don't, I can sometimes take 500 steps a day just working if that's all I do. So you have to try to find another way to keep yourself in shape. Okay. Also, when you don't have a routine set up, there's sort of different stages that people go through. When I first started working from home, I was working too much. I was working every day. I was working 12 to 14 hours a day. And that can really lead to burnout for a lot of people. So kind of having boundaries, what is your time for yourself and what's the time that you you work and do family things. The other is being tempted to to get distracted. And of course, people that work in front of computers are kind of used to that in some respects. But one thing I recommend doing is having different browsers on your computer. So you're using the internet for school or for work. You have one browser for school and work, and you have a separate browser for entertainment. So when you're entering an address for something that you're doing for work, it doesn't pop up with suggestions of entertainment. And you can silence the other browser while you're trying to concentrate. Okay. In 2010, actually, I had to work from home, teach, and that was, I was living in Thailand at the time, and there were political protests that basically put the city on lockdown at one point, and the government closed all the schools. So, and it happened, it escalated, but it happened pretty quickly. The decision was made pretty much, you're staying in tomorrow, and everybody's not going to school tomorrow. So there are some things that I found happen, especially when you don't have adequate time to plan and learn how to teach online. Okay, so for teachers, one thing that the biggest complaint from the students was that they were getting really overloaded with work. And it was definitely a valid complaint. One of my colleagues had a daughter that was in the school. And so, my colleague saw for herself how much work her daughter was getting. So try to communicate with colleagues. And communicating with colleagues is good for two reasons. One is just for the socialization and to keep up with things. And the second is just so you know that when your work is due, and you can try to schedule with your colleagues so that you're not overloading the kids with too much on different days. Everybody will kind of tend to do things last minute, which, if you're a teacher, you probably have your own way of dealing with that. But yes, so if you have a big project and you don't have it, and you have it due on a certain day, make sure that your other colleagues haven't scheduled something similar. Okay. This may be a good opportunity for teachers to try to discover what their students are doing on the internet, and try to relate assignments to that. So, you might have, since you're communicating online, you might ask your students sort of what are they watching, what are they listening to for entertainment. And I always think that teachers need to keep current with what sort of culture, the culture that their students are living in, and it's a lot of that's online nowadays. So, having a look at kind of the things that your students are working on with games they play, all that kind of stuff. If you can relate things to to what they know, they really like it, and they kind of feel a bit more understood. Okay. If it's possible, you can try to celebrate birthdays and things online. Some of your students that have problems at home are really going to feel a lot worse right now because there's no escape from whatever problems that they may have at home. So, whatever you can do to try to check in on them, and also, speaking with colleagues and finding out, you might have to divide up who you check in on, depending on what students relate to which teachers the best. That can really be helpful. So some of the students are going to have a really rough time with whatever else they're dealing with. And so, try to celebrate birthdays. Kids are going to be pretty sad about, not being able to celebrate their birthday at school if they were looking forward to that. So do what you can. And again, like, one thing I would say is to try to avoid burnout, because you might feel a little bit guilty about not being around your students. And this is also why students end up with too much work, is because you might feel as though getting everything together for them and putting things online is helping. And of course it is. You need to be doing something, but try not to overwork yourself, and try to keep some time for yourself if you can. Okay. I have a few design tips now. For documents, if you're putting together slideshows, PowerPoints, these are always kind of good tips to follow. Okay. And these are for different populations, so we can go through this together. And a lot of these are just good design tips in general. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, these are things that you should kind of do anyway. Bright, jarring colors next to each other are really difficult for a lot of even people who are neurotypical. Okay. Figures of speech. This is always helpful. Walls of text are really difficult for different groups. And even neurotypical people, they see a wall of text, they don't want to read it. So if you can use bullet points, that's great, or even just shorter paragraphs that are spaced out. Okay. And finding a format and sticking with it is especially helpful. Okay. Now, a lot of us might have, not necessarily a diagnosed anxiety, but just a general feeling of anxiety right now with changes that are going on. So giving feedback here is, so this is talking about general design sometimes for website, but okay. So this is trying to put some certainty into people's dyslexia. I have dyslexia, and it is something that I definitely think about in design. And so again, we have advising against using these big, heavy blocks of text. Even just a paragraph break makes a lot of difference. Okay. One thing I would say about using images, if you're talking about a document, I would kind of keep the layout simple. When you have text wrap or stuff, that can be really difficult. So we want to start, 1 minute, and don't get paranoid. It's just a cough. Having things justified to the right when the text is read right to left is really helpful. Yeah, underline, italicized, all caps, difficult for dyslexics sometimes. Okay. Whenever possible, audio format The contrast and color is especially important for dyslexia. So here, if you're looking at this, this is like a light yellow background with black text. This is helpful, at least just a little bit of yellow. Lowering the contrast for a lot of dyslexics is helpful. Also different colors. So some dyslexics prefer text that's slightly blue. Some others slightly green. Sometimes it's the background. All kinds of things. And a lot of programs now have built-in things that'll let you read how you like. We allow different typefaces and colors for the subtitles, so for the same reason. Okay. All right. So this is just a little bit of design advice. I think the biggest thing is, no big blocks of text and giving people a measure of certainty. Okay. And I have to give credit. I did retweet this. Yeah. So this is Karen Bax tweeted this. I don't know who originally made it. Alrighty. I will give you this as well. Bozeman Science is, he's a high school science teacher. And so he makes some really good science videos. I've used some of them myself as a classroom teacher. And he is really good with technology tips and really well organized. So let me give you that information as well. Okay. So next. Okay. Things that I would advise for students. I would also say to students, use a separate browser for entertainment versus schoolwork, so that you know where everything is. You can save your passwords for different things. You can not be distracted while working. So if you have one browser that it can be the browser that you never use. So so here I'm on Safari. I don't use Safari for anything else except for a few work-related things. Okay. One thing I would say to students is to read instructions extra carefully, especially if you have dyslexia or another issue. Because normally if you make a mistake with the instructions, a teacher's right there to correct you. Or teachers tend to repeat themselves a lot when instructions are important. So teacher might put something in bold or underline it, and that's really telling you to pay attention. So pay attention to the instructions, because it's going to take you it's going to take you longer to get feedback that you've made a mistake. So really have a look at if you are following the instructions or not. Okay. And I've given the feedback for teachers, and I have more experience as a teacher learning online than I do as a student. So I'm just talking about general things that I've noticed. It might be extra tempting to plagiarize. Don't do that. I had some students plagiarize while working online, and it was not a good situation. And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel anxious in these uncertain times, even if people around you aren't showing how they're feeling. Okay. It's okay to feel disappointed about things that you miss, right? Now, what's not okay is to do something that is dangerous or jeopardizes your health or the health of the people around you. But it is okay. People have different feelings about when things like this happen. So, that's all right. As long as I don't have any questions, I'm just going to do some. Okay. All right. So we're going to have, I just want to talk a little bit more about kind of YouTube and media as far as this is. Now, anything with the coronavirus has sometimes, I'm working on a VPN, but has links to organizations near you or, the World Health Organization that are giving out reliable information. Now, this was discovered in December, and now we're in late March. That is a very, very short time for studying what is going on with this virus. So it's a really difficult time for science communicators, because when you share something about when you share something, especially when you go to the trouble of making a video illustrating it, you really want to be sure that what you're saying is correct, because making a retraction on a video is very difficult. So what you want to do is be wary of people that say that they already have a solution. Okay. And be wary of people that science communicators are scrambling to put out good information. And you have to guess a little bit about what we're going to think in the future. So for the most part, if people aren't certain about something, they don't tend to include it in a video if they are one of these people that I've recommended. The science is still developing, so we're going to find out more. And so this video that is current now, with the information that we know now, in a month, there might be a lot more information. And I'm not saying that this video is going to be wrong in a month, but I'm going to say that this video might not have all the best information or all the most current information in a month. Even like ASAP Science that is doing this style, this takes time to produce. So if it's done the next day, these educators tend to communicate with visuals on this medium, not just point a camera at them and talk. So these take longer to make, and you definitely want to make sure that your research is correct. A lot of these are just based on how, this type of virus, not even a coronavirus, just this certain type of virus reacts. And again, I'm not a science communicator. So science communicators are having a rough time right now. And I've recommended people that I think are doing this for the good of education, not for profits. Okay. All right. Last thing is, so my husband and I, we moved from Thailand here about a month ago. It's very difficult to move countries when you got visas and you've got all of these things going on. So that has been a roadblock in me getting work done, and we're still waiting on hopefully our container shipment of our belongings isn't held up by this, but if it is, it is. So the next video we're going to be working on is the one about is continuing on about China. So we're going to pick up at the Han Dynasty and continue from there. Let me just try to get something up on the screen. So we're going to continue from Han China. It was a little difficult to pick what was going on next, and I know a lot of people want different things, and we have a very long list of things that we wish to cover. And while I definitely wanted to get on to the second part of the China video, which is not going to even get us close to modern times, but I don't know where it'll end off yet. So we're going to start at the Han Dynasty. Part of it was also, I do want to get back to the Indus River Valley, and there's other things in the pipeline. We're kind of going chronologically, but we're also picking up subjects that aren't necessarily well covered. So Greece and Rome, there's a lot of videos about that already. So we're picking up on topics in history that have fewer videos, but yet are still included in different curricula around the world. So that is kind of how we make our decisions. So the end of China, the next part of China will be next. I think the other part that kind of made my decision between the Indus River Valley and China was sort of what you see going on in the West, where Chinese people have been particularly hurt by this, not just in China, but just they've been facing discrimination and other Asians as well. In other countries, and being blamed for a virus, which you can't blame anyone for a virus. That's absurd. So I do want that coming up, and it's a video that I was going to work on anyway, and it's also a chance to kind of explain more and do more to sort of humanize people if they're foreign. We also our website. Let me go over here. Our website is available in China. So, excuse me. I swear I'm fine, but I haven't gotten tested, but I'm staying home. My throat's definitely dry from all this talking. So these videos on our website are actually available in mainland China, and a lot of students in mainland China have been already studying from home. So these are not hosted by YouTube. We spent a lot of money to host these on a different site. So, and we have some different features that are not available on YouTube. So if you haven't checked out a website at edu2.com, so we have subtitles, and you can choose the font. Right. You can choose the color. Okay. And change the size. All caps, if that makes you happy. And we also have this rolling transcript at the bottom here. So what this does, unlike captions, is that if English is not your first language, it highlights things. And so if you don't know what a word means, you can highlight it. You can translate it through whatever translation software that you use. Okay. And I have to do a little promotion of our silly Redbubble. Merchandise. So if you have any other ideas about if you want a different joke on some merchandise, I can do that. Eventually, we would like to move away from Redbubble. We don't make very much, and it's a little expensive to something else. But for right now, Redbubble is the best option for us. So I've probably been talking to myself this whole time. And I have. All right. I will see about keeping this up. And I hope that everybody is doing well. And I will talk to you soon. Okay.